Hey everyone, I want to talk about this brand new album from Knocked Loose, You Won't Go Before It's Too Late. Now, this is the third studio album from hardcore and metalcore band out of Louisville, Kentucky, Knocked Loose. Now, as someone who's not too into metalcore and that, even though I do like loud music, I do like metal, I do like all that sound, I never really got into metalcore. It all never really seemed to be that ear catching to me. Never really grabbed my attention as much as some other bands did, some other genres, albums. Metalcore just never really did for me. And there were obviously songs here and there that I enjoyed just throughout would pop up and it'd be interesting, but it never stuck. It never made me say this is stuff that people need to be listening to. I always tried finding other stuff to listen to. That was a general thing of mine, and it was always the same with Knocked Loose. Even before this album, that was the case. While I don't think that they were terrible or anything, I just didn't see what made them special. And even after this album, I still don't see it for those previous albums. But this album is different, and I know that's a very cliche thing to say, as it's probably been said several times about other artists. But this case is so true to me, as this album really goes above and beyond everything I look for in an album, and they did it really impressively on it. Because not only is it metalcore and it's hardcore, whereas hardcore is a bit different, where I generally, for the most part, do like hardcore. It comes and goes sometimes for me, but for the most part, I've been a fan of it. This album goes insane with how much diversity they try and put on this album and how well they execute it. As much as I love just a wide variety of different genres being explored on different albums, there are so many times where I think people give more of the participation, you tried, you really tried to, I believe it's called Plastic Death was the band, which I reviewed their album start of this year, and a lot of people were really into it. I thought it was okay. I think I gave it a 6. It explored a lot of things, but it didn't pull it off that well, in my opinion. This album really goes well into it, and they don't make it obvious on how many different things that they're trying on this album. The production on it is fantastic, as they keep exploring ways to make it loud, but it naturally gets there, as I feel like my big issue with metalcore and a lot of stuff is even when things don't need to be loud, they crank up the volume. So when it gets to these loud parts, it all sounds the same, and there's no reward, there's no build-up, there's no tension. I feel nothing from it. This album genuinely freaks me out, and that's amazing. They explore other genres, as I said before, like one of my favorite songs in the album, Piece by Piece, which goes full industrial at points. It's more of an industrial hardcore song than it is metalcore, as it has these full range of these drums, this loud snare. It sounds like a fucking oil drum being hit. It's insane. These crushing guitars, that's like a hydraulic press. And these insane vocals from the singer Brian Garris, as he's got these nasally upper register vocals I'm a big fan of. And he does go into these lower register growls and stuff on other songs, but this song sticks out for some different registers in his voice, and I'm all for it. And you have another one of my favorite songs on this album, Suffocate, which has Poppy, who is a very popular singer right now in these horrorcore and these horror scenes. But she gives these spoken word dialogues that are so chilling and ominous, and these guitars that just sound like a part of a horror movie soundtrack and build so much good tension on the song. And then near the fucking end of it, you get these drum pattern that seems to be reminiscent of these Raggae music, and I'm all for it, because once it gets kind of translated to this metalcore, at first you don't think it would work, and then you hear it and you start to understand no, it works so well on that. Don't Reach For Me has these very doom metal kind of inspired guitars. It's obviously way faster than usually doom metal is, but you can see where the influence is, and I'm all for it. And I also really love how the song transitions quickly into the next one, Moss Covers All, with this fast transition that's almost blistering. It's insane, and I love it. Transitions throughout this entire album is amazing. As another complaint from a lot of metalcore for me is it blends into one almost mess, but on this album, each song stands on its own, but also jives so well together. Take Me Home is another good song, as near the end of it, you get this build-up of this anxiety and almost pandemonium inducing fucking layers of guitars, this like screaming guitars making this like wall of sound that's like just horror filled and almost like treacherous and bringing you to your doom. I love throughout this entire album how like heavy and noisy this album is, but how like clear and crisp it is at points. It's not overproduced, it's not underproduced. They do their best to make it work well. The silence throughout the album that they put in, they'll throw in random bits of silence, not random, but they'll put in bits of silence throughout it to then build up, and they build that tension well. I think perhaps my least favorite song was this opening track, Thirst, as while it was okay, it just wasn't the most interesting to me. I was a fan of the feedback that they put on there. While there were other songs in the album that did feedback, this one was the most memorable one. But other than that, it didn't really stand out that much. It wasn't horrible, but it just didn't stand out as much. Overall, really enjoyed this album, and I'm feeling a 9 on this album. Let me know what you thought, and I'll see y'all later.